What if I were to tell you that all of us endure a lasting impact from sports? Would you believe me? Well, it's absolutely true. Each and every one of us has a sports story of our own that resonates with us. Maybe it was a parent or a caregiver who played catch with you when you were a kid. Or maybe you raced your little sister to the dinner table to get the first slice of pie during Thanksgiving. Or maybe you're like many people who painted your chest red, white, and blue during the Olympics, this tradition of pride and nationalism during the Olympics. It's true that regardless of whether you play softball with your company or whether you're me who trains to attain the highest level of competition in the Olympics, sports comprise a massive part of our culture here in America and abroad. I remember I had a coach once who started to tell me about why he wanted to bring me into the college athletic space. And at first I didn't really understand it because to me, college was just something we did growing up. It really wasn't a big deal. And he used to tell me how when someone from my community saw me, they saw opportunity and they saw possibility. They saw an individual who statistically did not have the opportunity to go to college from my neighborhood, who did not have the opportunity to attain some of the great lasting benefits of education, actually accomplish these types of things. And I think that's a phenomenal benefit. The other day I started to think, well, we know that college athletics trains us to manage our time well. We know that college athletics trains us to be physically fit and how to handle sportsmanship. But what if in reality college sports can teach us how to be better citizens? Well, I actually think it does. And I think it's incredibly important that we start looking at the benefits that college sports has to help create better citizens because we need that. Today we're in a fight against tyranny, against disease, and most recently, thanks to COVID, we're fighting over the last roll of toilet paper at the grocery store. So I want to talk to you today about what it means to be a student athlete here in America. Now, whether you're on the court or whether you're in the pool, all of us student athletes, we willingly embrace this daily montage of 6 a.m. runs, morning classes, afternoon weightlifting sessions, and the frigid ice bath, all before dinner time. It's quite the glamorous lifestyle. So glamorous that it culminates into about 40 hours a week given towards just your training, and another 50 given towards your academic experiences. And every other hour you have left is given towards your friends or your family. And nothing means more to me than being able to bring those experiences back to my community. And when I think about my experiences, I think about my Uncle Reggie. Now, Uncle Reggie would greet me at the airport whenever I came in town at the end of the semester or whenever my sports team would fly into San Francisco. Now, mind you, I don't mean he picked me up from the airport. No, my Uncle Reggie was actually the janitor at the San Francisco airport. And he would greet me with such love and such excitement. And he would say, "Nephew, are you learning anything?" I said, "Yes, sir." And he'd say, "Nephew, are you still faster than me?" I'd say, "Well, yes, sir." And then he'd give me a pat on the back and tell me to go be somebody. And that meant the world to me because my experiences as a student athlete traveled with me back home to my community, the community that paid for me, the community that cried for me, and the community to which I owed my life. And the reality is, as a student athlete, our experiences travel with us all over the place. It would travel with me to law school, it traveled with me to national championships, and most recently, it traveled with me to board meetings. Now, before I was the first student athlete to serve on the NCAA's board of directors, before I served alongside university presidents and other student athletes to write the constitution for the NCAA a few months ago, I was one of hundreds of student athletes advocating for a voice in the rooms of decision makers that actually impacted us. And I'll never forget what it was like getting there. I remember walking into a windowless committee room at the national office's headquarters and feeling incredibly uncomfortable. But the college presidents in the room actually greeted me with a smile. Now, I had to prove that I was there for more than just the snacks, of course. But as we discussed things like name, image, and likeness, compensation, and the health and safety of student athletes, I was treated like a colleague, well, because I was one. The problem was the public didn't share the same sentiment. And the next morning, I woke up to a very heartbreaking article that described my participation in this group as nothing more than a meaningless moral gesture. I actually even received a letter. I didn't even know people still wrote those, honestly. I received a letter telling me to stay in my lane. Everyone seemed to know more about what it meant to be a student athlete and the value we brought to the table and what we should want than I did. No one knew that a week prior to those letters, I had lost a teammate to suicide. No one knew that my best friend had to go home because her scholarship was revoked as the school cut her team. No one knew these types of stories because there was no one in the room to tell them. There was no one in the room to talk about what it meant to be a student athlete who gets injured and feels like the world forgets you even existed. There was no one in the room to tell you what it's like to be a woman on that national basketball team and walk into a March Madness facility and have nothing more than a handful of copper weights. And if you're me, there was no one in that room to tell you what it's like to be a black student athlete and to go on campus and fit the description of everyone who's being murdered in front of an entire nation that is watching and to show up on campus as if nothing happened. But there was a real problem, which was no one wanted us in the room. People thought we didn't have the time to devote to actually moving forward with these policies. People thought we wanted to just be on the court. No one believed we would actually contribute to the discussion. And I think it's time we actually start looking at student athletes for the value that they bring to our society. 2 weeks from now, the March Madness Basketball Championship is going to start, and it's going to provide revenue that's going to support hundreds of thousands of scholarships for hundreds of thousands of student athletes. Isn't that amazing? As a person of color, I'm actually one of the few people that help support this entire system that provides for the welfare of education for all people in intercollegiate athletics. And so, yes, I demand more from my institutions. I demand more from my fans. But please understand that when I demand more, I'm actually demanding more for you. I'm demanding more because what I get out of my academic and athletic experience on my campus, the public actually sustains that benefit. Because when I graduate with a sound mind, an educated mind, willing to take on the world's problems, we all benefit. And I think we could really start to learn something from the value that student athletes bring to our society. It's interesting that today we're talking about things like name, image, and likeness and a student athlete being paid instead of what kind of education a student athlete's actually receiving. It's kind of sad because we spend 4 years at a university and all that our fans have to say we need is, well, put some money in their pockets. I would like to see these values change. I thought in this country we value things like education and the academic experience. It's my belief that these types of experiences actually make us better citizens. When a student athlete graduates from the university, they graduate with this experience that has been molded through enduring racial issues and solving gender equity issues all on campus. There's a fight going on right now in society that we've actually taken to the field that we're winning. So why wouldn't we be using that? College athletics is about so much more than the March Madness Championship. It's about the 450,000 student athletes that the NCAA is gifting to society. It's about the training that we receive to become better citizens, better servants, individuals ready to take on our country's problems alongside the rest of our communities. Citizenship is not who you are. It's a verb. It's what you do. It's what you do every single day. And our student athletes are engaging in these practices every single day on the field, and we haven't even paid attention to it. A recent survey had found that 85% of Americans actually believe that social action can cure some of these issues. Problem is, only 52% of those individuals actually said that they were going to be involved in that discussion and in those courses of action. Today, about 3 years later, that's even worse. At this rate, we're on a path where we're going to become a nation full of passive subjects instead of active citizens, and this should terrify you. Now, I'm not saying college sports is going to solve all of our problems, but I do think student athletes deserve an opportunity, don't you? To me, this is what it means to be a good citizen. To me, this is citizenship. Citizenship is fighting hard for the institutions and the welfare of your society. It means standing next to the men and women who go to school with you, who are on your teams, who want to see some of these problems actually get resolved. And I think we can all learn something from that. I think better citizens lead to better institutions, and I think better institutions lead to a better society. We should be celebrating these student athletes who are stepping up to be good citizens instead of passive subjects. So today I'm asking each and every one of you to join me in welcoming these 450,000 student athletes who are entering our society as members who have endured a tremendous amount of work and are ready to contribute to become a part of what we all call a wonderful nation. I'm asking you to join me in supporting the women who through Title IX are pioneering a better way forward for female student athletes in this country. I'm asking you to be citizens and not subjects. Thank you.